Hi, this is my on-ramps internship final presentation. My name is Cecilia Russell, and well, obviously my company was Accenture, as you can see from the slides. So I'm pretty excited to start talking about this. So let's get started. So today I was just going to talk about my company, and then how my group and I worked on our final project at the company, and then just sort of introduce the project that we ended up making. So let's get started with talking about Accenture. So Accenture is a global consulting firm. They consult in so many different things, including like tech and management consulting and financial consult. It's just everything. So they are a global company. They have a lot of global locations. They're very worldwide influential. We did a couple workshops, and some of the lecturers were actually Accenture employees that were based in other places around the world, or used to be, like in Hong Kong. The other thing was that because Accenture is such a global company, I mean, we didn't work with anyone from outside the US, but there were other interns that were from locations all around the country, such as Minneapolis, Dallas, Atlanta, and more. And so Accenture basically helps clients change up their business in a certain way that will help them do their business better. And they very much value ethics and diversity in the workplace, which is something that we were introduced to many times during the course of this internship. And the other cool thing about Accenture is that they work with basically any company you can think of, like all the branches of the federal government, Boeing, Coca-Cola, like so many others. So yeah. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how my group and I worked on our final project. So my group is 6 people. A couple of us were from DC, and we also had some from Dallas and Atlanta, I think. And the main process that we went through to develop our project was called design thinking, which is a sort of problem-solving framework, which involved the creation of personas, journey mapping, and stakeholder mapping, and also specific types of brainstorming. So the bullseye brainstorming was a method that we used to brainstorm, and as you can see, we have at the top it says, how might we foster interest in STEM for students traditionally underrepresented in this field? So our group decided upon that question to become the topic of our project. And our project was to propose a hypothetical project that could be completed to address the need that we identified in our question. So our ideas, we broke them down into essential, nice to have, someday, and then not really applicable. And this was a really good way to do it because we sort of figured out what was the most necessary things to work on so we could prioritize. And this was the stage where we actually kind of figured out what exactly it was that we wanted to do. Because before that it was really pretty up in the air and there were a lot of ideas floating around, so really sorting them like this showed what we were going to focus on. So the next thing that we did was create what's called a persona, which is someone that represents the user of your service or product. And that just helps you understand what your audience wants, and what is your audience's background and what do they want, so that you can best serve them. So we created this persona of a middle school student whose school doesn't have the right access to STEM education and programs and materials and stuff like that. And this persona works well for our project because that's the kind of person that we're looking to help with our project, specifically middle school students who might live in an area with underfunded schools or less STEM programs, or they just somehow don't know about or don't have access to these programs. The next thing that we did was journey mapping, which is kind of an extension of the persona. And it basically goes through the day of the persona and shows different events, notable events that happen to them in the day, and how it affects how they're feeling. And that is valuable because it sort of demonstrates like at what point people would want to use your product or service, and sort of helps us figure out how it should be delivered. And so then we thought about, okay, well, if this is our project and this is our aim to solve with the project, we went on to the step called stakeholder mapping. So stakeholder, obviously an investment in like Shark Tank and stuff, is people who own a percentage of your company, like with money. But that's not what it means in this case. In this case, a stakeholder is just referring to somebody who is caring about the outcome of this, or something that has a hand in it. So an example in our case would be the students are stakeholders because they influence whether or not they would participate in STEM programs. Parents are stakeholders because they may want their children to learn about STEM, or they may want their children to learn about something else. A school board would be a stakeholder because they're in charge of what funding goes to which parts of school programs, and what resources students are given in the schools. So the first thing we did was just made like a big giant list of all the possible stakeholders in the situation. And then we identified like 4 or 5 most relevant stakeholders. These are the people that you care the most about, what they think and what they're going to do to help you, the people that could help you the most, or the people that are most necessary. And so in our case, the mayor and governor's office was one that we identified as a important stakeholder because they offer a lot of education funding and grants for new educational projects, so that is something that we thought was important. And then the last thing that we did was, as you can see, there's speech bubbles on here, and they basically show what is motivating these stakeholders. But sometimes it's kind of obvious. And then you use the arrows, if necessary, to sort of show where the interaction is going. So in the case of the parent here, they as you can see, the parent stakeholder there's an arrow toward the children because they are influencing the child. And so the other thing that we did during the course of this internship, which I'll talk a little bit about, was we attended a lot of workshops about a lot of different professional skills. Sort of the process that we went through, that I just went through with our design thinking, is we attended a series of workshops to learn how to do that. And we also attended workshops on many other really relevant topics to employability, like personal branding, and also several personal finance workshops, which a lot of people really enjoyed. Okay, so now I can talk about what the project actually was. So the product that we came up with to solve our problem, or at least to address our problem and our goal, is called STEM Searcher. And it involves a website, a web page, and a social media presence. And so the idea is that students will use STEM Searcher to find STEM programs in their area with the website. So as you can see at the top there's an icon that has a map, and then it says start your search. So that is that's the mock-up of our search page, in which someone would input their home address or zip code, and then they can find opportunities near them. And then on the left, there are also some other screenshots from the website that are interesting and relevant. And then the second component is a Instagram page. We felt we needed a social media presence because we wanted to raise awareness about this project. And the other thing is that the Instagram page's purpose is slightly different from the web page. You don't use the Instagram page to search for programs near you, but it does encourage students to learn more about STEM. It can inform students about different STEM fields, like what is mechanical engineering versus what is biochemistry. And it also is raising awareness about STEM deserts. And that is for people to see, both students and other stakeholders who may want to become invested to help solve the problem. And so you can see on the right there's the Instagram page header, In the bottom there's a sample post, and then on the right is a sample of the feed that would be posted, and you kind of can't see it because of my picture, and I'm sorry about that. But that is what we did. So that's actually all I have to talk about. Normally I guess I would ask if anyone had any questions, but in this case I don't think that I can do that. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.